The question that had dominated social media for days was finally beginning to fade, but not before leaving millions of fans around the world searching for answers. Why did Jungkook return to South Korea alone? Why did he remain in New York City after every other BTS member had already boarded their flights home? And perhaps most importantly, what kept the golden magne in the city long after the lights of the FIFA World Cup final had dimmed? Ever since BTS delivered their unforgettable performance at MetLife Stadium during the FIFA World Cup 2026 festivities, fans had followed every update surrounding the group with incredible attention. The 7 members had arrived together, shared the stage together, and celebrated another historic moment together. Yet, in an unexpected turn of events, their departure from the United States did not happen the same way. RM, Jin, SUGA, J-Hope, Jimin, and V were all seen returning to South Korea shortly after completing their official schedules. One by one, they passed through airport terminals, greeted the press, and eventually disappeared behind the arrival gates at Incheon International Airport. However, one member was missing from every photograph and every news report: Jungkook. At first, many fans assumed it was simply a scheduling matter. BTS members frequently travel separately due to individual commitments, and few expected Jungkook's absence to become a global topic of conversation. But as hours turned into days, curiosity transformed into speculation. Fan communities across social media began asking the same question repeatedly: why is Jungkook still in New York? The mystery only deepened as reports emerged suggesting that Jungkook had been seen quietly moving around the city accompanied by his trusted bodyguards. There were no official appearances, no public schedules, and no explanations. Despite remaining out of the spotlight, he somehow became the center of attention. Entertainment journalists quickly recognized the growing public interest and began covering every development surrounding his extended stay. Within a matter of days, Jungkook and New York became trending topics in multiple countries. For ARMY, the situation felt unusual. Jungkook has always maintained a balance between sharing moments with fans and preserving his personal space. While supporters respected his privacy, they could not hide their concern and curiosity. Some wondered if he had stayed behind for professional reasons. Others believed he was simply taking time to rest after an intense period of travel and performances. More imaginative theories soon appeared online, ranging from secret recording sessions to private meetings with international producers. Yet, amid the endless speculation, one fact remained unchanged: Jungkook had chosen to remain in New York while every other BTS member had already gone home. Looking back at the events leading up to his delayed departure, it becomes clear why fans found the situation so fascinating. The FIFA World Cup final had been one of the biggest moments of the year. BTS's performance of Dynamite at MetLife Stadium captivated audiences around the globe, reminding everyone why the group remains one of the most influential acts in music history. Jungkook, in particular, received significant praise for his vocals and stage presence throughout the performance. Cameras frequently focused on him as tens of thousands of fans sang along beneath a sky illuminated by fireworks. It was a picture-perfect moment, one that many believed marked the conclusion of BTS's World Cup journey. Yet, as it turned out, Jungkook's story was only beginning. According to individuals close to the situation, Jungkook's decision to remain in New York was connected to something surprisingly simple: rest. After months of non-stop activities, international schedules, and high-profile appearances, the singer reportedly chose to spend a few additional days away from the fast pace of everyday life. Sources suggested that he wanted an opportunity to enjoy the city quietly before returning to South Korea and preparing for future commitments. If true, the explanation highlights a side of Jungkook that fans have always appreciated: his desire to occasionally slow down and reflect despite living under extraordinary circumstances. For many supporters, the possibility that Jungkook simply wanted time for himself felt both understandable and comforting. After years of dedicating himself to music and performances, few would argue that he had not earned a brief moment of peace. Nevertheless, the mystery surrounding his delayed return continued to captivate audiences worldwide. Every sighting became news. Every photograph generated thousands of comments. Even airport employees reportedly recognized the level of public interest surrounding his eventual departure. Then, at last, the moment arrived. Early in the morning, reports began circulating that Jungkook had been seen arriving at the airport accompanied by bodyguards. Dressed casually and carrying only a small amount of luggage, he appeared calm and relaxed as he made his way toward the departure area. Witnesses described him as smiling politely and occasionally acknowledging nearby fans with a small wave. Within minutes, social media platforms exploded with reactions. "He's finally going home," wrote one fan. "We've been waiting for this moment all week," another commented. For ARMY, his departure carried an emotional significance that extended far beyond travel plans. Jungkook had become the final member of BTS to leave New York, symbolically closing the chapter on the group's unforgettable World Cup experience. In many ways, his solo departure felt poetic. BTS had arrived together to share one of the biggest stages in the world, yet Jungkook would ultimately be the last person to say goodbye to the city. Fans quickly noticed this symbolism, describing him as the one who stayed until the end. Others referred to him as New York's final farewell. Regardless of the phrasing, the sentiment remained the same: Jungkook had once again created a memorable moment simply by being himself. The response from ARMY was immediate and overwhelming. Fan accounts shared compilation videos documenting his journey from MetLife Stadium to the airport. Emotional edits featuring music and messages of support quickly accumulated millions of views. Across multiple platforms, supporters expressed relief knowing that he was finally heading home safely. "Thank you for giving us so many memories," one fan wrote. "Rest well when you arrive in Korea," said another. While the exact details of Jungkook's decision may ultimately remain private, perhaps that is part of what makes this story so meaningful. Not every question requires a dramatic answer. Sometimes, even global superstars simply need time to breathe, reflect, and enjoy a few quiet moments away from the spotlight. For fans accustomed to seeing Jungkook on stadium stages surrounded by flashing lights, the image of him walking through an airport beside his bodyguards served as a reminder that, despite his extraordinary career, he remains human. As his flight departed New York and began its journey across the Pacific Ocean, one chapter quietly came to an end. The city that had hosted millions of football fans and witnessed another historic BTS performance was now saying goodbye to its final guest. Somewhere above the clouds, Jungkook was finally on his way home. And while the mystery surrounding his delayed departure may never be fully explained, one thing is certain: ARMY will remain. As news of Jungkook's departure spread across the internet, international media outlets continued to revisit the timeline of events that had transformed a simple travel delay into one of the most discussed entertainment stories of the week. It was remarkable to many observers how a single decision to remain in New York for a few extra days had generated such widespread interest. Yet for those familiar with Jungkook's influence, it came as little surprise. Throughout his career, the BTS vocalist has possessed a unique ability to connect with audiences in ways that extend far beyond music. Whether performing in front of thousands or quietly walking through an airport terminal, his presence carries a significance that resonates with millions of people around the world. Several entertainment analysts pointed out that Jungkook's delayed return highlighted the extraordinary relationship between BTS and ARMY. In most circumstances, a celebrity extending a stay in another country would attract minimal attention. However, BTS has never existed within the boundaries of ordinary expectations. Every milestone, every journey, and every moment shared by the members becomes part of a larger story embraced by fans across generations and continents. Jungkook's time in New York was no exception. His extended stay quickly evolved into a shared experience, with fans collectively following updates and counting the days until his return. Meanwhile, New York City itself seemed reluctant to let go of the memories created during the FIFA World Cup celebrations. Local residents continued sharing stories online about the atmosphere surrounding MetLife Stadium on the night BTS performed Dynamite. Many described it as one of the most electrifying environments they had ever witnessed. Purple lights filled the stadium, fans from dozens of countries sang together, and for a brief moment, music and football united in a way that transcended language and culture. Jungkook's voice, carried across the venue alongside those of his fellow members, became part of that unforgettable night. Some fans began referring to his delayed departure as the final New York chapter. The phrase quickly gained popularity online, symbolizing the idea that Jungkook had remained behind to close the story properly. While there is no evidence to suggest that this was his intention, the narrative resonated deeply with supporters. It reflected the emotional connection many people feel toward BTS and the memories. Back in South Korea, anticipation surrounding Jungkook's arrival continued to build throughout the day. Fan communities shared airport updates while discussing what the future might hold for BTS following their appearance at one of the world's biggest sporting events. Some hoped for new music announcements, while others simply wished for the members to enjoy a well-earned period of rest. Regardless of what comes next, there was a shared understanding among fans: moments like these are worth appreciating. As the hours passed, additional footage of Jungkook's departure surfaced online. In one widely shared video, he could be seen briefly turning toward a group of fans before offering a small wave. The gesture lasted only a second, yet it immediately became one of the most talked about moments of the day. Comments beneath the video reflected the emotional atmosphere surrounding his journey home. "He looks tired but happy. Thank you for everything, Jungkook. See you in Korea, Golden Magne." Messages like these appeared by the thousands, illustrating once again the extraordinary support that follows him wherever he goes. For many fans, Jungkook's departure represented more than the end of a trip. It marked the conclusion of an era defined by unforgettable performances, global celebrations, and memories shared across borders. There is also something deeply symbolic about the timing of his return. The FIFA World Cup is often described as an event that brings the world together, and BTS has spent more than a decade pursuing a remarkably similar mission through music. Their appearance at the tournament served as a reminder of the power of cultural exchange and the impact artists can have on audiences worldwide. By remaining in New York a little longer than expected, Jungkook unintentionally gave fans one final moment to reflect on everything. Of course, questions will likely remain. Why did he choose to stay? Were there additional commitments? Did he simply want time to himself? Unless Jungkook decides to speak publicly about his experience, fans may never know the complete answer. Yet perhaps uncertainty is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes, stories become more meaningful because they leave room for imagination. As night falls over New York City once again, the excitement that surrounded Jungkook's final days in the United States is slowly beginning to settle. The airport terminals have returned to normal, the headlines are gradually shifting to new topics, and the city continues moving forward as it always has. But for ARMY, the memories remain. They will remember the performance at MetLife Stadium, the days of speculation, and the moment Jungkook finally boarded his flight home accompanied by his bodyguards. Years from now, fans may look back on this period and smile at how invested they became in a story that, in many ways, was beautifully simple. A young man who has spent much of his life on stages around the world stayed behind for a few extra days before returning home. Yet because that young man was Jungkook, millions of people followed every step of the journey. And now, with the lights of New York fading into the distance and South Korea waiting to welcome him home, the mystery that captured the internet has finally reached its conclusion. Jungkook's reason for returning alone may never be fully explained, but one thing has become undeniably clear: no matter where life takes him, there will always be millions of people waiting patiently for his next chapter to begin.